Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part two of the volume 6 of my history of plague series and quarantines. All right, I had to end part one because of time constraints, so we're just going to go on and pick up, all right, on this myriad of topics on this subject. So looking at numbers 5, 1 through 4, okay, where they speak of those even children, all right, to be put out of the camp, okay. It just depends on if they leprosy, okay, based on the discretion and the determination of the cleanliness of the leprosy of the priests, okay. So they didn't want to do that, but quarantine again is used to it's tough love, but it's love, but it also protects the individuals that are not infected, and this is a way to try to keep the spread of leprosy down at the time. I thought I'd go on and add this little clip with Numbers 31, 1 through 20, because this speaks on a battle that the Israelites had against the Midianites and also the Phoenias, okay, where they pretty much had slain the men. This is the Israelite army slaying the men. They took the children captive, and also the animals and so forth, okay, their goods. Now, if you read further in this chapter, okay, that it speaks on what many of the Israelite soldiers should do, okay, to purify themselves if they were either injured or hurt in battle, or should they had slain a person but maybe they were injured. Or how you should purify yourself periodically until the sores are healed. And take a look at Numbers 31, 1 through 20 on your own, okay? To add in Numbers 31, 1 through 20, that the chapter also speaks on those who work with animals, okay, if they like what they call now butchers, or if they shed goats and skins and so forth, as well as woodworkers, because at the time, those craftsmen did work with sharp objects, and they were exposed to blood or materials that they can be cut and so forth, okay, and expose the skin and blood and so forth. But Deuteronomy, okay, speaks on people that enter the camp. You know, they must be clean, or they would not be able to come into the camp. That they were required to wash themselves, okay, and wash themselves again. All right, and they have guidelines on how they should wash themselves. And I also wanted to say, like in the book of Leviticus, you have also things like female health care, how a woman should take care of herself after she delivers a baby, and those kind of things to, if they follow the guidelines, that will make them clean and kosher. Okay, because it was considered that a woman was unclean because of the exposed flesh in the midsection. So it's very, very important that people should read those laws, the laws in Leviticus pertaining all that stuff. So this is 2 Kings chapter 7. 3rd through 4th verse, and I spoke on this actually in the famine series. If you can get a chance to look at those series, that when they spoke to of a famine in Samaria and of four leprous men, okay, and that they were exiled out of the camp, okay, when prior to the famine, or when the famine was going on. All right, and I guess they were concerned if they were to live or to die or to be taken by the Syrians. At the time, the Syrians were making a lot of raids in northern Israel, and eventually northern Israel will be conquered. This was probably around, and I said this before, right around the 8th century BC. So you could take a look at this scripture, and also feel free to look at volume 6 of my series pertaining famine. So this is a scripture on 2 Kings 15, chapter 5th verse. And I'm going to look at the New King James Version, and I'm going to look at another version, a cross-reference, okay, right here. And you could look that up on your own, where it says, "Then the Lord struck the king, so that he was a leper the day of his death. So he dwelt in an isolated house, and Jotham, the king's son, was over the royal house, judging the people of the land." This is also cross-reference, okay, that as long as he has the infection, he remains unclean. He must live in the camp alone, okay, in his own place. So leprosy, this goes to show not only that this king was quarantined, but this could happen to anybody as far as a leprosy, and so as the coronavirus. That verse previously spoken, 2 Kings 15 -5, speaks on one of the kings of Judah. But this is an interesting passage right here in Chronicles 26, chapter 16. That's Second Chronicles, that is 26, 16 through 21. This speaks on. This is when actually where Babylon had conquered North Israel, and the Israelites were sent back to Babylon. And I do remember writing a discussion on this passage where it's King Uzziah, okay, where actually God had helped build back up Babylon, and some of that with the help of the Israelites. And Uzziah was feeling himself. Okay, he did not forgive or did not venerate the Most High, so therefore he was also stricken. Okay, he was stricken and with leper, sent out, okay, of the camp, and he was crawling like an animal. All right, so had hair growing out, long hair growing like an crawling, okay, in the marsh. And he remained a leper to the day of his death. If you look at verse 21. All right. So the Most High, he has the ability to bring the most powerful down to their knees. So this is a very interesting scripture to look at. And the Persians, what happens, that's what happens in the end up invading Babylon, and they send the Israelites back to Israel after 70 years. And that's King Cyrus. And to finish things off, I just thought I could leave you with a scripture of the day in Job 1, first chapter, 21st verse. And I believe that Job had went through a certain tribulation where he lost his children and his land, okay, to different storms and stuff, and raids of the Chaldeans. But he said, okay, naked I come out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Be blessed in the name of the Lord. So he was already a God-fearing man, but he didn't understand why those tribulations happened to him. And he went through a little semi-quarantine himself. He was given leprosy on top of losing all of his possessions and family. His wife left him. Okay, but the Most High came, and basically he said that he is in control of all things. And if he were, this is Job, okay, is to keep the faith in the Most High, then he will bless him even more. So at the end of the day, Job had twice as many animals and possessions that he has or had at first. And he was also given 10 kids, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and he lived to be 140 years old. So again, he went through a little quarantine himself, and that may be quarantine as a opportunity to observe yourself. Okay, maybe work on certain areas, and then for the most part, get back in love or closer to the Most High, because he does things for a reason. Similar incident happened with Jonah when he was swallowed by a whale. Okay, where he basically had to get humble. Okay, Miriam. Now, this has happened to characters in the Bible. And quarantine is not always a good thing. Okay, it's maybe embarrassing, but it's humbling. People that know others that are quarantined, please show love and love thy neighbor, as they say. So that's pretty much it on that. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and share with your friends. And stay tuned for the next segment. All right, thanks for listening.